What's up, dude?
What up, dog?
How's it going? How's your day going so far?
My day is going great. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Had a cup of coffee with a cool dude I met at the school one day. We were just sledding, and what's interesting is he said one of the things that I said to him stuck with him, and I think you'll appreciate this. Basically, myself and another dude took our kids to the last snowfall we had. It was like real thick, heavy snow.
Yeah.
And so we started making snowmen, snow people.
Snowmen's.
We started
Hmm.
making snow people. And and the uh for whatever reason, we're like, dude, let's just see how big of a snowball we can roll. And so we like started this little snowball and started it, dude, it got massive, like 7 feet in diameter. It was huge, and it was, I mean, it had to be thousands of pounds. Like we got to a point where we couldn't roll it anymore. And so I went over to this group, where there were a bunch of dads on the hill that were a little bit away, sled with their kids and stuff. And I was like, hey, any dad want it? We need another dude. We need a strong dude. And this one guy came down. He happened to be from Hawaii, just cool guy. And so he even with like three dudes, like we just couldn't get it any further. Like this thing was just so big, and all the kids started climbing on it. We're throwing all these kids, just they see a giant snowball, they just want to climb on it, right? And so there's
Yeah.
just kids all over this snowball. uh Long story short, I guess I don't remember it, but I was talking to my boys, and you and I are always talking about trying to model what adult relationship looks like, right? And so I guess I looked down at Jake and Noah, and I'm like, hey, this is what this is as easy as friendship is just saying hi to somebody, inviting them into some fun, and getting their phone number. Like that's what dudes do. Like I don't know if I was Joe. I don't even remember the context of how I said it, but I was just
Yeah.
telling my boys, hey, you just ask somebody for their phone number and make friends. And the kids they're so good at it, right? But I was just using it as a showing them that adult men could do it too. And I didn't think anything of it. So as we were talking today, he said, man, one of the things you said to your boys just really stuck with me. And it was this idea of telling them like how to make friends as adults. And it just was fascinating because I think it's not a pat on the back. It's more of an acknowledgement of how hungry most of us are just to make friends. And
Yeah.
also like how easy it is, dude. I met the guy. He tried to help us roll a snowball. I'm like, hey, you seem like a cool dude. Uh, let's exchange numbers. And then, now, a few weeks later, we're meeting for coffee, and I'm inviting him into, TKM, into our online and our in-person community. And, who knows, man, there's probably a good chance he lives on this side of town. Cool dude. Seems like we're into the same things. Like there's probably a good chance that, you know, be a best friend. So
I was kind of wondering if it was going to go there. I
yeah,
mean,
they probably will. They
did you
probably
ask
will.
him if he has a best friend?
No, I mean, because I just go into these situations with the understanding that um, even if they do, like this friendship will be better than that.
Mm.
Oh,
Hmm. We should just start asking all of our podcast guests if they want to be your best friend. See what they say. I loved John Tyson's answer.
I don't remember. John Tyson must have said something disparaging because I don't remember it. What did he say?
No, he was supportive, but he was just like,
Or
well, let's just see how it goes. Just
let's just take it slow.
just take it slow.
Just take it slow.
Yeah.
John Tyson, I think that's a great leeway into well, and this episode we want to talk about. We've done this a few years now. The top 10 books that we read this year. But interestingly, I think there's also been a common theme. Not interestingly, I just think it's what we're passionate about is community and community building, and how do we serve, how do we serve people in general, but specifically how do we serve men through the Kinetic Man and relationship building and focus on that. And so a lot of the books that we read, and a lot of the books that I find to be really, really good are just happen to be about relationships, relationship building, how to be better. And really, as with anything, I mean, depending on the type of book, but if you're reading a nonfiction book, at the end of the day, like, what are you doing with it? Right. Like, it's
Right.
great to stack books, man. It's awesome. It sounds super smart, like super impressive. You read 70 books this year. Wow. Congratulations. Like, what'd you do? What do you do with it?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about a lot of the books that I don't know what your list is. But I assume I know a few of those books. And at the end of the day, we have actioned books that we read, which is, I think, the biggest critical step.
Yeah, for sure, man. Um, yeah, I mean, it'll probably be similar to last year where um, I'm like all nonfiction, and you have some fiction in there, and we keep on saying that I
Yeah, I
should
got a
read some
good, I
fiction.
got a good mix. I got a good mix this year.
I I'm still
I'm
all
sure you have
nonfiction.
none. Yeah, and it's probably because you're not smart enough or have the creative energy to
There's
be able to
just, dude,
process
there's
through.
just so many books that I have on my list that are all nonfiction that I'm interested in.
Yeah,
Also,
no, it's true.
most of the
I'm just kidding.
podcast guests that we have, most of the podcast guests that we have on write nonfiction books. So I feel like,
True. It's
there's
true.
a emphasis there,
An emphasis
an
on the wrong
emphasis.
syllable. Well, let's do it,
Uh,
man.
all right. You wanna go first? Number five. Number five on your list. David's list, number five.
Well, how about I go number one? I think I'm
No,
going to
let's save
start
the
with
best
number
for
one.
last. Save the best for last, dude.
Yeah, but the best is always the same for me every year, and it's
Okay.
I just think I just want to honor it. And so for I mean, number one again this year is the Bible, dude.
Yep.
And see, last year I think you went first and you didn't say the Bible, and then I said the Bible, and you're like, oh yeah, me too.
Well, I think
No,
that's like, I mean,
but
that's kind of a given. Like that's like
yeah,
above number one.
it is. But and I was talking actually today over coffee. The idea of Christianity without reading the Bible, or faith without doing some of the things that it calls for, like prayer, solitude, spending time alone with Jesus. Basically all the things that Jesus did, and and some of the things that I'm sure one of your favorite books, John Mark Comer talks about.
How'd you know?
When he talks about like getting, doing as Jesus did, but and part of that being like, are you actually, what did he do? Okay, well, he went off on his own and often into solitude and prayer and those types of things. But I will say this year was interesting. This year, the Bible. So we did the Bible in a year again, and wrapped it up. I think you wrapped up as well, but I wrapped it up, probably a couple weeks ago. But I'll tell you what's interesting is you could read the Bible. I would argue that you could read the Bible 1,000 times in your life, and every single one of those times you gain something very different, because it's part of the relationship of walking with Jesus, right? And so just like any relationship, as you continue to refine, get to know somebody better, there's different tensions, there's different aspects that you learn and appreciate about somebody. I mean, it's relationship, and that's the goal of Christian faith. Is not religion. It's not it's not ritual. It's not these things. It's relationship. It's getting to know your Father more intimately. And so this time through the Bible is it just hit very differently. It was pretty cool. Some of the Old Testament books spoke very, very differently to me. And then weaving that through the New Testament, and seeing the 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 continuity of the story of Jesus in the Old Testament as well was just a fascinating time this time for me. It was extremely blessed time, and I was happy to walk that journey with you, to read it again. And then Revelation, this could be a little bit interesting. What was your favorite book? Talking about favorite books, what was your favorite book in the Bible? And I think this time through, there was a couple Old Testament books that I just would like. I just got so much out of, particularly towards the end of the Old Testament. Some of the prophets that we don't spend a ton of time in, like the Malachi's, Habakkuk, and some of those books. But the book of Revelation was, man, this time you and I talked about it a little bit, but it just hit differently. It was probably one of my most enjoyable reads, and it just was, it hit me in a different, profound way. So
Yeah, dude. I I will say that the first time reading through the Bible or reading through the book of the Bible, it was early on in the year, was Exodus, and I ended up actually going back and reading through it again, because of one of the other books that I'll list in a second. Um, that hits, on Exodus specifically. And you're right, man. Like every time I read it, even just a single book, a single chapter, like something else new comes out of it. And then when you're reading it along with an explanation in a book from an author who like dove deep into it, you even get more understanding and just continue to dive in every single time. So yeah, I heard. Actually, I think I heard this from Brandon Turner, and I haven't even told you guys this, but I asked Santa for one of those Bibles that has like the wide margins, where you can like write notes and stuff like that. And so my new plan is for next year for reading the Bible. I plan on using this Bible with the large margins and reading. The goal is to read maybe a chapter a day and write notes in it, with the idea that those notes will be kind of towards my kids. So the first one would be for my daughter. She's older, and I read through the Bible, write notes to my daughter about what I'm reading, what I'm reflecting, and then whenever that's done, whenever I read through the Bible, I have all these notes to my daughter. I'll give that to her as a gift. Probably 2, 3, 4 years down the road. And my daughter's 3 years older than my son, so then I'll start over. I'll do the same thing over again, and do the same thing for my son. And it'll be interesting to see that, because I bet you that my notes to my daughter are going to be very different than my notes to my son,
Yeah.
as I'm reading through, with that lens on, looking at my children differently. That'll be cool.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I am wondering how they're possibly going to be able to even read whatever notes that you write to them. That
Yeah,
that's going to be an interesting.
I'm gonna have
You
to be
have
intentional about.
you have some pretty terrible handwriting.
Yeah,
Pretty terrible handwriting.
I I'm reading my notes right now about the books
You
that I'm
can
going to talk
probably
about,
barely
and I
read
can
them.
barely read them. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm
Not
gonna have to
no
be pretty
shock.
intentional about
No,
that.
that's cool. Probably halfway, maybe a quarter through the reading this year, or that you and I, the Bible in a year. I actually bought a new Bible. I switched to a note taking Bible, so it has
Oh,
those
nice.
margins.
Does it have white margins?
Yep, has I mean, it's got like wide margins in all the line, like it's made for note
Mm,
taking. And I thought through. So what I love the vision. And one thing, and I'll just do it here. I'll commit, or ask you to hold me accountable. I want to get back to writing my kids. I got those journals; they've been sitting on my desk, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I want that to be the mechanism by which I pass it on. But I also love the idea. I've heard it from a number of different sources that some individuals, one of their most prized thing that they have is their dad or their mom, their Bible, that is just so used, and there's so many things in there from years of just spending time with God,
yeah,
that Bible is almost like an heirloom or something, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I do love the idea of passing the Bible on. I do like that idea of it being one to your daughter, one to your son. That's pretty cool. Um, I don't know that I can
You can
commit
steal it.
to
You can take it
to
from me.
yeah, I don't think I could commit to that many Bibles,
Sure, you can.
and the specificity of the notes to them. I don't know. But I love the idea behind that. The intent is to give your children something that you have written to them personally, which I've started years ago.
Yeah,
I
on your
just need to
terms.
really get back into that. I really need to commit. I want to commit to that. I don't need to do anything. I want
How
to commit
often
to
do you
that.
want to do it? How often do you want to write in a
Once a
journal?
week per. So I do one for my wife as well. So 4 journals,
So pretty
um,
much 4 days out of the week
4 days out of the week. Yep.
you're writing.
Yep. And I'm
Yeah.
writing already. I'm journaling every morning anyway. So just trying to figure out how to make that. Maybe that habit transitions to, instead of journaling, the journaling that I do now, maybe that's a journal entry to them, but with my prayers for them. We'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. That's not what today's about, but I do like it. So we'll talk offline about that commitment.
All right.
And really, to that point, who's holding you accountable to, if you desire to read and you want to get something out of it, how are you doing that? Right? Like how are your people, whether it's reading the Bible in a year, or the accountability to do it, and also what are you going to do with that? Because reading a book with somebody is a lot more fun than just, well, I shouldn't say that. For me, some people just love crushing books, which is great.
Crushing it.
Crushing,
Crushing it.
crushing. John, that's a John Tyson shout
That's
out.
a John
Crushing,
Tyson shout out. Crushing it. Crushing it, mate.
destroy,
All
destroy it.
right. Hey, I'm gonna start with number five. Now we got number one out of the way. I'm gonna go back to number five
Yeah.
because I like going from bottom to top better.
So is this, so just to be clear, we didn't really establish ground rules. Is
Yeah, yeah.
this is like your fifth favorite book of the year?
My fifth favorite book of the year,
Okay. Nice.
and I don't even know how I categorize that.
Yeah, I was gonna
I
say,
just, uh, maybe
go
just
ahead,
yeah. I don't
do
know.
it. Just do it. This is your number 2/5 book. Go ahead.
Yeah. How about this? These five books are books that had the most impact on me this year that I've taken the most action from.
Sounds
How about
good.
that? Is that good?
Sure.
Okay. The Anxious Generation. Oh, I'll blur it out. The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt.
Just put it in
Uh,
front of your face if you really want people to see it. Nope. Like right
no,
where your face is. Back, back, back. Like it's your face. There it is. Boom. The Anxious Generation. Good
The
stuff.
Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. Fascinating read. Eye-opening, a little scary. I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, so they're not in the stage of phones yet, but they're definitely in screens, and they definitely see me on a phone a lot, and computers and screens, and I think it's going to get worse over time. So just a really eye-opening book with a lot of data. It's pretty heavy. Um, it's lengthwise and just emotionally wise. So word of caution on that. But just yeah, it just made me think a ton about how I interact with screens, and also how I intend on modeling that, and then also how I intend on uh, parenting through that when my kids get to that age.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I've not read that one yet. But I do love, we are big on, I don't know if it was last year, 2 years ago, but just the anxious, I'm sorry, Coddling of the American Mind was
Yeah,
another
yeah,
one that they put out that was,
yep,
I found to be absolutely fascinating and transformational. Probably worth a second read, as a matter of fact.
yeah.
Um, Good. So for me, I'm not, I'm just gonna go with my second book because
Sounds good.
there's no real order. And I also, uh again, I'm a big believer in reading fiction as well, because it just takes you to a different place. So Cutting for Stone by Abraham Verghese, I think is how you say his last name, was was a pretty awesome book. It was a recommendation from Trey. Trey Hargrove was. I read a lot of the books that he recommends to
He's
me.
giving you some good books.
He's given me some good books, and so that one, it just was really, again, it dives into a number of topics that were just, it just was, it was very entertaining. It was a page turner. A lot of late nights reading it, but at the same time, it just challenged me to think differently about different parts of the world. Challenged me to think differently about a number of things that you just normally don't think through, right? And it was, I mean, it was based on medicine, and it talked about things like just social classes, and different socioeconomic situations that it really helps you get into it really helps you to be more empathetic in different ways that I didn't necessarily anticipate. So it was a good book. It was a really good book. I recommend it.
Nice, dude.
I'm sure you'll read it.
Maybe.
Yeah. Moving on. Moving on.
All right. Next one for me. Number two parenting book by Dr. Dre, Dr. Andrea Mata. We had her on our
Dr.
podcast.
Dre. Yeah.
I laughed in it. I've taken advice from it. I love her content on social media. She's got great posts on LinkedIn, great YouTube channel, very informative, incredibly smart. And I've taken a lot of advice from it. Like she, no kidding, has like practical action steps to take in the book with different issues. And I have a challenging child. I love him to death, but he's very strong-headed. My son, he's got some great leadership qualities for later down the road, but he pushes my buttons regularly. I am not the best at responding to those at times. And so that book for me was very, very practical and actionable. And I've used and I go back to a lot this year. So Dr. Dre, big shout out to her.
Dre. Yep. Love Dr. Dre. She is awesome. I loved our chat on the podcast. Don't remember what episode that was, but yeah, she was awesome. And then I love her approach to mental health as well,
For sure.
and just a lot of the things that she's doing specifically with. I think she still serves a football team,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah. She's
she
a high school
works
football
with
coach.
a lot of young men that as they're going through formative time to help them become men, and I love that. And there's some tough love in there. It's not tough love. It's just it's very it's very practical, but it's not this coddling or enabling type parenting. Her advice is much more in line with the way that I seek to raise my kids. So I love it. I love it. Dr. Dre, shout out, super dope. Um, this there's going to be a couple books that we both say for sure. But we had Justin Whitmel early on. We've actually, and I think in years past, we've done other books of
Yeah.
his
I actually
that
didn't
were,
choose that one because I think we said it last year as well. Because or we spoke about his books in
yeah.
general. But yeah.
But this book was a more recent read for me. You got it for me as a gift last year, and it was the overall gift was very meaningful. The bottle of wine that you got, that by the time that we actually open it, I think it might be a bottle of vinegar.
Yeah.
But that will make it special because that's just a longevity thing and a friendship thing. But for context, Made for People is a book, and in there it talks about covenant friendship and what that looks like. And you took a page out of that. They used whiskey, I believe. You got a bottle of wine and put a date on it that will represent 50 years of friendship, right? 50 years of friendship, which is crazy. But all that being said, Made for People was a book that I read this year and really has been, I keep going back to it. It had some amazing, amazing, incredible advice. It had some really good data in there that has transformed the way I look at the stuff that we do. And it was just very practical. And then Justin is just a awesome dude, man. Like, it was a great podcast with him, and he's just a sweet, sweet man. And so that book was very impactful for me.
Yeah, and some follow-on action that we took on that was we bought a bunch of his books. What did we get, like 20, 30 books? And the intention is to hand those out to some of our closest friends here in Colorado. So if you're one of those and you're listening, then act surprised when we give it to you. But
And if you
um,
don't get one
yeah.
and you thought you were going to get one, we love you dearly. Well, and
uh,
my intent really, it's not even for the closest friends. It's really just an invitation for other dudes to uh, we're such believers in it to just read it, to look at it and understand that there's a different way most of us aren't taught it. Most of us don't understand it. And it's interesting. Back to the conversation I had with that dude over coffee. Now that I have some of these understanding and tools and whatever, but also things that have touched my heart and in areas that I want my children to excel beyond me. There's intentionality as well of like pointing out, hey, son, hey, daughter, this is what, and this is called covenant friendship. This is what being intentional looks like. This, like modeling, but also teaching through the framework of, I don't know what that'll turn into, but I'll tell you, it wasn't modeled to me that way. No hit on my parents at all, but it wasn't that level of like, hey, this can be possible. And then to see the joy, for them to see the joy in my life through my friendships. And again, my kids, I think Noah asked the other day, he was asking about you. He's like, all right, daddy, tell me again, is Uncle Stewie your brother? And so it's just cool. It's cool for them to be confused about a depth of relationship with friends. I love that. I love explaining that. That's one of my favorite things to explain to my kids is
Yeah.
who is blood family and who's not, because of the familial love that we share in our friendships.
Yeah, dude. It is cool. I love that book, man. Really good one. This one for me, you probably have, I don't know, maybe don't. But on the list is Fighting Shadows by John Tyson and Jeff Becky. We just recently had John on the podcast, and it was really really good. And man, the book again just very actionable, very practical, and really just a wake up call for men um, to stop living in the shadows. Uh, and it aligns so well with everything that we're promoting in Kinetic Man. So so good. It's such a good book.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that book as well. It was also the chapters as he dove in, the one that comes to mind immediately. We talked about this on the podcast, but ambition and I think a lot of the things that a lot of men know, um, more, they know more intimately either through experience or whatever, the things like lust and porn and all these different things that are bombarding. But some of the things we don't think about as much are things like ambition and how the beautiful side of that too. Like, how do we live in a godly way to really live in the light, which, as also living in the light, brings to mind the conversation we had with Mike Hatch
My
yesterday,
catch, yeah,
and his book Manhood,
empowered
which
manhood.
was about empowerment through
Yeah,
walking in the light of the gospel. So also another awesome book. Just we've been blessed with some pretty incredible guests and the books that they've written. And again, I think this year, very much like every other year, it's not really a top 10. It's such an artificiality because it's just a list of awesome books that we love. But I'll say another book for me, fiction again, just very entertaining. But it's The Streets of Loretto. And I'm sure you haven't read the first of that series
oh
yet.
yeah, yeah, that one's great.
It's all Texas,
So good.
stuff, dude. But Larry McCurdy, what is the first book? Lonesome Dove. Lonesome Dove.
Okay,
I,
yeah,
I
yeah.
loved Lonesome Dove. I think that was on my list last year. The part two, I think there's four parts, and they're long books. They're not short books, but the second one was Streets of Loretto, and again, just captivated me, but also like got the imagination going, and it talks about things. It's interesting. The more you read, the more different kind of perspectives you bring to it, and there's a lot of stuff about relationship and loyalty and the challenges of that, the friction in that, the rub, and it's pretty powerful from that perspective as well, to just be able in story form to read a book that super entertaining, but also at its core, at its depth, there's a lot of stuff about male relationship in there.
Nice. I'll say that I am planning on reading some fiction books in 2025. I bought my daughter the whole set of Chronicles of Narnia. like the Lion, the Witch, and Her Wardrobe, like all of them, like the whole box set for Christmas. She's been wanting to read those, and my intention is to read those with her alongside. And so she'll probably read them way
Nice.
faster than I do because she's incredible at, at reading. She just like blows through books. But yeah, my intention in 2025 is to read the Chronicles of Narnia, the whole series with her. So I
Nice.
will read
Nice.
some fiction books next year.
Yeah, maybe I'll read some of that too. Yeah, you should read. I think you'd like Lonesome Dove a lot too.
I know for a fact I'll like Lonesome Dove, and
That's
we've had
good.
multiple people comment from last year's podcast that I should be reading Lonesome Dove, specifically, especially because I'm from Texas. All right, next
Which
for
is
me.
gross, but good book.
uh, next for me was this is more of a devotional than a book. But we had Steve Healy. He's a fellow Naval Academy grad, helicopter pilot in my squadron. We had him on at the very end of last year. I bought the book last year for Christmas, and the book is The Best Is Yet to Come: 52 Reflections of What She Taught Me. And it is a daily devotional and journaling tool to use. And it's basically his reflections on his his spouse who passed away from cancer. And dude, just an incredible year of reflection and journaling for me, using this book. And there are some really hard questions in it. And there were a couple mornings early when like it brought me to tears because of just the thought exercises that the book went through and pushed you into. And it's not just necessarily all about like your relationship with your spouse. It's about. I mean, it's he's a Christian. He was a pastor, and it definitely has like a Christian lens to it. And man, I really feel like it got me closer to God this year, and opened up a lot of thoughts and ideas for me to go through. Really good if you're looking for any type of devotional to walk through this entire year, every single day. It's 52 weeks. Every single day there's you know an idea, an assessment, some questions, some actions, and yeah, it fantastic. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, man. I did not read that one, but I love that podcast with him, and just the reflections through you vicariously and you talking about it. It sounds like it was pretty powerful. So I probably should just borrow that book from you and dive in.
Well, you're gonna have to
It's
wait
good
a
stuff.
year. I'll just buy you one because my wife wants to go through
Oh,
it
she
this
does.
next
Oh
year.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, she
I'll
should.
just buy you one.
She should. Wasn't she in our Bible reading in a year plan as well to start? Was she committed? Was she part of that?
I think that was in 2023.
Was it?
He
Okay.
was, yeah.
Got it. Got it.
Crystal, if you listen, it's okay. I love you.
Cray cray. Cray cray. Love you. Um, I think I don't have it in front of me. Was it Scaling Smart?
Yeah,
Scaling Smart.
yeah.
Yeah, I really
Kathy and Rich Fetke.
Kathy and Rich Bethke. I really
Fetke.
liked it.
Fetke.
Sorry, what did I say? Bethke
Yeah,
Fethke.
that's Fighting Shadows.
Uh the I really appreciate it. So a lot of times you read a business book and it just, to me, just personality wise, they're just kind of boring, dude. I just can't get through them.
Yeah, I'm
It's
actually
just
really
not.
surprised that you're mentioning this book.
Yeah, they're just so, I don't know, dude. It just doesn't resonate. But I really liked their book, the way they did it, and I think probably because they spent a lot of time on things that I am passionate about, like the why, purpose, the mission, the values, all these different things that are like a little bit higher level, and then you dive down from that level into tactics. I really appreciated that, and I did appreciate the tactics that they talked about, and just how like no kidding, like getting down to to brass tacks. Like this is these are the things, these are tactics, these are what you can do. But they started at a place that I really appreciated, and I really enjoy just the way that my mind is. I can get down into the weeds if I really embrace the big picture.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the way that they wrote that book, I was also surprised. when I first opened it, not opened it, when we first got it, and they agreed to be guests, which was an awesome podcast. I loved having them. Um, I did not think the book, like, just knowing me, I was just like, man, this is gonna be a slog to get through. I'm not really gonna enjoy this. Just being honest. But I did, man. I really loved it. I thought it was really, really cool, especially because they spent so much time, not only spent time on their own process at that more the deeper level, the emotional level, I guess, but also explaining how important it is to do that. And as you and I run businesses, start businesses, look at partnerships, all these different things, that's an area where, excuse me, that's an area where you and I spend a lot of time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we don't, things don't tend to go super well. And when we
Yeah.
do, things just tend to have a little more blessing to them. Not because I think God's like, oh, I will bless this necessarily, but more because we spent the time to understand those aspects of it. And when you see them come to fruition, you see the blessing in that as well.
Yeah. No, it's good, man. And I didn't mean, I was surprised that you said that because it's not a good book. It's a fantastic book. I agree 100%. But just knowing you and the books that you read, I was surprised that you had said that one. One that I did think you were going to say because you spoke of it so highly when we recorded the podcast was The Edge by Idam Tarno. Because I remember you saying that
That
you
one
really
too.
loved that one, the
Yeah, I
leadership
did. I
book.
like that one too. Yeah. Yeah, that one was awesome as well. That one surprised me. That one
Yeah.
also surprised me. I don't know why that surprised me necessarily, but I just it did. Um, Again, the content of it, the way that he wrote the book, and it just really really spoke to me.
You can probably guess the next book that I'm gonna say because you got it for me, and I just like blew through it like super quick, and I listen to him all the time and read every single one of his books. But John Mark Comer, God has a name. I can't do this. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
God
Just
has
put
a
it by your
name.
face. Yeah.
John Mark Comer. Um, Man, blew me away. It opened up a whole new world for me and how I see God. Um, from my prayer life to my Bible reading to my journaling. Man, just everything. Contemplation, how I go on walks and just look at His creation. It just, yeah, yeah. That's all I can say, man. It blew me away. I look at God in a whole new way now because of this book, and I'm grateful that you bought it for me. So thank you. And it's a book that I'm going to be giving out as a gift to a lot of other people.
Yeah, man. Awesome. I don't have it yet. If you want to get it for me, if you want to get it for me,
I will give it to you.
that'd be awesome. But I don't want your copy because wasn't there like a beautiful inscription written in the front? I don't
There was an
remember.
inscription. I don't know about beautiful, but
Oh,
it was from. I don't even really even know who this is. Your daddy. That's who it
yeah.
said.
Huh.
Love your daddy. Who? My
Interesting.
yeah. My my dad did not get that for me. So
No, but your daddy did. You know what I'm saying? Your daddy did. Dude, I don't even know what number we are on, but why don't we
I've
just
I've given
what
four. No, I've given 5 books.
no, I think we've given five. I think we both gave five
Yeah.
books.
Can I?
Just
I'll
I think there's some
go
I
ahead.
think we should do a couple shout outs though, because
Okay.
again, it's never really 10.
It's
Uh
10
and
ish.
and
I think last year
and
was
and I would
ish.
tell you, right, 10-ish. And I would say that these books all they all made an impact. So for example, one of them that immediately comes to mind is, and we had him on the podcast, Corey Lozier. His book
Yeah.
Born a Loser was a fascinating read, and it was super powerful. It was a super powerful redemptive story. But man, I within a couple of days of us reading that book, I was able to give it to somebody who is a parent of a kid who's just stuck in addiction. I say a kid, an adult who's stuck in addiction, much like Corey was. And part of his intent was to write the book for those suffering through addiction, but also for those that love them. Like that's a stated a stated target audience for him in writing the book. And so I was able to literally give that book away within probably 2 or 3 days of us having him on the podcast. And dude, it was a powerful book just to read about Corey's redemption, man. It was pretty awesome.
Dude, that was completely God driven because it was really interesting the way that all went down. Like I actually wanted the book back. We were in our office and you had my book that I bought and for some reason I wanted to grab it again and then you're like, can I just hold on to this for a few more days? Like I want to kind of go through it and I don't know really why, but can I just hold on to it? Which is not normal. Normally, like, if I let you borrow a book, you'll give it back to me once you've read it.
Yep.
And then it was that day, right? It was that afternoon that you left the
Yeah,
office that
that
you
that
had
was the
that meeting.
crazy part about it, is that it wasn't that I went back to the office to get the book for a person. It was
Right.
a like a an overwhelming like, hey, just take this book with you. And again, I was like, I just want to, I didn't even, and I actually don't even remember the reason why I wanted to take it. To be honest, I wasn't
Yeah.
going to read it again. There wasn't necessarily something that was um like I want to relook at this specific thing. It was a very like clear, like, hey, just throw this in your bag and take it home. And I happened to be on, after that we recorded, I was going back to a meeting, and at that meeting was when that individual said, hey, this is where I'm at and this is the struggle and this is going on. And I was like, oh wow, this is weird, dude. This is super strange. And I was
Yeah.
like, this book is for you. And I think I texted you from that meeting, like, hey, bro, I'm about to give your book away.
Yeah.
Are you cool with that?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, super cool. And then I just gave you the context for it. And I mean, that, who knows what that leads to. But also Corey, in his graciousness, I hit him up with an email that day too. I'm like, hey, dude, would you be willing to be a resource for this guy if his son is willing to talk to you? He's like, yeah, dude, easy day,
Yeah.
easy day. So just a cool, overall cool story. Great podcast, amazing dude, incredible story, and had an immediate God impact, within days of recording.
Another author we had on the podcast with some pretty amazing God impact is Robin Pugh, and he wrote a book called The Reluctant Disciple. Talk about an amazing story. Again, God driven. Um, that's been a book that I've told a lot of people about, and we've started. We've had to started a relationship with Robin, and he's just an amazing dude. He's reached out to us multiple times and just said he's thinking about us and praying for us, and he's connected us. He's a connector, and he's just made some amazing connections for us. Most of those are in Texas. So we have a lot of we have a 2025 will be probably another year of a lot of Texans on the podcast because of all the connections that we receive from other
Yeah.
Texans.
Up, up, double chuck. Up, up, double chuck.
We should make that a T-shirt.
We
Up,
should
up,
up, up, up,
double chuck.
up, up, double chuck. Yeah, I would love that.
But Robin's an amazing dude, and his book
Yeah.
was really, really good. The Reluctant Disciple. So,
Yeah, man.
how
No,
about
I
how about
agree.
Jordan Grummett? Purpose Code is coming out in
So I was just thinking
January.
about him. So I was gonna mention him. I am sure that because it drops what, the 7th,
Yeah,
January
January
7th?
7th. Yep.
January 7th, his new book coming out. And I was actually gonna mention him again for taking stock, but I think we mentioned that one probably last year.
Yeah.
But Jordan, Doc G, awesome dude. I talk about him often. I was actually talking about it. It was awkward because, not awkward, but I was talking about his book, a Big P, Little P Purpose, Big P, Small P Purpose, and literally just 2 days ago, and I was like, this book hasn't come out yet, but when it does, it's going to be awesome because this conversation we had, I think, will be very applicable to this place in life where this person I was talking to, this place in life where you're at, because she was talking about goals and goal setting and how it didn't resonate with her and she didn't love it, and I was like, actually, there's a really awesome author wrote a book that I don't currently have, but we had a conversation around it. And there are people out there doing amazing things that feel the same way about goal setting, like, that it can be detracting from what you're truly trying to do and the way you do it and blah blah blah. So yeah, I'm really excited about that book dropping.
Yeah, man. Um, we could continue. I mean, we had some amazing guests on our podcast this year that have all written some great books. Um, let's see. I'm trying to scroll through the podcast and to give some shout outs. Anyone else that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I just think we should be, very intentional with. I think you did a post on it maybe yesterday. Um, what goes in comes out. I mean, that's not what you said. What goes in comes out, but you were saying what you consume, or it was a John Mark Comer reference.
Yeah.
Um, but I think we should be very intentional with the books we read and the things we're consuming, because it all has a potential to make for us to become very different, to grow, and also just what is our intent, what are we trying to do. And like for us, we want to be master community builders, and not because we want to have a bunch of people around. Like when I was talking today about this guy, um he was talking about the perspective of manhood and what's going on societally, and good, bad, whatever. And what popped in my mind is an image of just all these boy men, and they're not men necessarily fully, because they've never been blessed by a man. Like they didn't have a model to look at. Someone wrote me the other day and he's like, hey, I just want to encourage you in your marriage, because it's uncharted ground for you. You've never had marriage to one person modeled for you, like in any context, right? In my own parents, in their parents, the whole family dynamics. I've not really had a great modeling of my parents are amazing and they model marriage currently. My mom's been married for many many years to yeah, has been married to Gramsci for many years. For I think 40. Gosh, like dude, they've been married a long time.
That's awesome.
And but it doesn't change the fact that as much as deeply as I love Gramsci, and as much as I consider him to be my dad, it doesn't change the fact that there was a broken relationship that was my biological father, my biological mother, and there's impact, right, to that. And so ultimately, as we excuse me, as we dive into these books about community and manhood and building and whatever, and service and leadership and Jesus and all these things that we're passionate about, we're sharpening our we're iron sharpens iron, right? We're sharpening each other. These books are sharpening us. And so I would just encourage, again, as we do every year, like don't just make a list of books so that you can post on LinkedIn or whatever. Hey, got through my 70 books this year. Like that's awesome. Like that's great. But like, what do you no kidding? What is the face to face, flesh to flesh impact that you're making or that you desire? And is your reading habit, which is a beautiful thing, a reading habit is a beautiful thing, is it feeding that? Whatever that is, do you know what that is? Right. And that's what I love about the books that we've read this year. That's what I love about the podcast guests that we've had, because at the end of the day, like those are relational building blocks, getting us towards an objective that we want to achieve, which is pouring into our community, into our families, to our kids, and the even professionally, the people that we serve, the men and women we serve professionally, all these things are being amplified through the things that we're choosing to consume, or they're not, right? So
Yeah. I found let me just how about I end with this page from John Mark Comer's book. So I think it's a good way to wrap it up. A practice of contemplation. The writer Wee Wee Tan once said, You are what your mind looks at. You are what you contemplate. Think about it. People who spend hours every day reading angry political news tend to become angry, political, radicalized by ideology, and more. People who spend their free time doom scrolling on social media tend to become distracted, unhappy, anxious, and insecure. People who spend their evenings watching dirty TV tend to become lustful, addictive, and compulsive. And people who spend time daily looking at God, the God in the cloud on top of Mount Sinai, who incarcerated himself as Jesus from the village of Nazareth, tend to become compassionate, gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in love, and all the rest. We become like whatever it is we gaze upon, whether it's the TV or the Trinity. It's
Joe
good.
Marcomer, man. Joe Marcomer.
Dropping bombs.
Dude's a baller. I love it. I love it. Well, hey, as we wrap up, well, when will this come out? Will this come out in January? This come
This will
out
come
beforehand?
out, I think, very end of the year.
I
Yeah.
guess it'll come out whenever we want it to come out. It'll
Yeah.
come out in December.
There you go.
And as we wrap up the year, let's just commit to the excitement of a new year. Let's commit to the I don't think it's cliche. I think it's a great time of year for new beginnings and to set intentions for what we want 2025 to look like. And really, as you do that, make it achievable, but like pick a person. Man, like I've got a Stu, I've got I've got I've got dudes like Stu in different areas of life that I'm leaning on to try to grow in 2025 in very specific ways.
Are you
Like
cheating on me,
send
dude?
those. What's that?
Are you cheating on me?
Yeah. Yep. I am.
Oh,
If you move, within an hour, maybe we can some of these things. Like I would love to meet you every morning, like we did in Italy for workouts. That was a
yeah.
beautiful time of life for me. But that being said, like I'm starting to send the invites out now, right? Hey, I'm really focused on accountability to work out. Would you like to be part of that with me? Yes, cool, awesome. And I've had some guys reach out to me and be like, hey, I'd like to do this thing. Awesome, let's do this. And that accountability, if you're super committed, if you're committed to it and you're serious about it and you want to honor that, man, 2025 could be an absolutely life-changing year. And that's what I'm looking for.
Love it, dude.
Yeah, man.
Uh, if you know John Mark Comer, we want him on our podcast in 2025. Please connect us. Kidding aside, not really, but also like, hey, if you know of other amazing books and authors, we love connections. We love reading books that make an impact on us, and we'd love to have them on our podcast. So if you are one or know of one, um, give us a shout.
Yeah, and also that goes. We love spending time with people like Peter Ostapko, who is absolutely doing just
Kinsman
incredible
Journal,
work.
another amazing
Kinsman
book.
Journal, amazing book. But the journal is like the calling card. Like his daily efforts and the way he serves his community
Yeah,
and these dudes is pretty incredible. So um, we just love those conversations. Just giddy up, man. Giddy up.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, friend. Up, double chuck. Here's
Up,
2025.
double check. See ya.
Chip.